Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
Into hour 2 we go, and somebody should tell the Charlotte Hornets executive board, "You're fired." And the person that should deliver that message is this man. He's been so patient since we were talking NBA. He joins us today. Jay Spivey, how are you, man?
Good, gentlemen. How you doing?
Doing good. Jay sent me an Instagram message about the worst organization in the NBA, and I'm just going to give Jay the floor about it right now.
Well, I mean, I can't say that I was terribly surprised, but
nope.
The Hornets are the worst organization in the NBA, according to this group that I found the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And not surprising, seeing as they don't seem to know how to win games and know how to develop a team or anything like that. So, and then I don't know how there could possibly be a fan base at this point.
I don't know either.
Is it just that there's like a bunch of crazies who are just like, maybe 1 year we'll actually get it right. 1 year we'll actually make it all the way.
What they should be kind of doing is kind of like what Oklahoma City's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Develop around the draft, but again,
Where are they picking?
They keep getting in the now. I know the lottery's coming up here soon. They have no chance to win the lottery. We all know that it's not going to happen.
Speaking of which, Shaq, you doing me a favor? Can you see how many draft picks OKC got?
How many draft picks?
Which is still ridiculous to know this team is that darn good and they got so many freaking draft picks.
Well, the Hornets have nothing. They have literally nothing.
Right.
And you know darn well they're going to draft like 4th,
Middle of the
5th, or
round.
6th, and there's not going to be anybody really good available at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 3 in the first round and 1 in the second round. Their playmaker.
3 first round picks. The number one team in the NBA has 3 first round picks.
Yep.
That's just this year.
One of their picks is through Miami. One of their picks is through the Clippers, and then one of them is via Philadelphia, protected 1 through 6.
Which should explain the plight of the Clippers, and in many cases should explain the plight of the 76ers.
If Sam Presti doesn't win an NBA title within the next 5 years,
and on the show, as I've discussed, it's not Charlotte is not a destination for free agents, and they don't seem to sign their own players anyway.
Because the last major free agent they had, they couldn't keep him due to injury. Gordon Hayward.
Now, when the first group of Charlotte Hornets came in the 80s, for the most part, until the very end, when it fell apart, the ownership was willing to spend money. This group here, no matter who their owner is, they don't know how to spend, they don't know how to develop, they don't know how to draft, they don't know how to anything.
Charlotte ain't been relevant since the Chris Paul, David West days.
Yep. And they were in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And they were in New Orleans.
Had they been able to draft Chris Paul or Steph Curry, who were both from North Carolina, that might have changed things.
Easily. Speaking of Carolina, your thoughts on the Panthers draft class?
They seemed like they did okay. I mean, wasn't great, but I mean, it's better than it could have been, I guess. I mean, they seem to be going the right direction, I think.
I thought they did pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I better than a lot of teams did. I mean, I wouldn't say it was spectacular, but I think they did pretty well, yeah.
Who stands out to you in this draft class the most, Jay?
You about overall or just for them?
For the Panthers.
Just for the Panthers.
You know, honestly, I know they got a couple linemen, but I really believe their best move might have been at who they picked up in free agency this past weekend. I think Hunter Renfrow might be a steal.
I agree with that.
I mean, he's not great, but he's going to help them a lot.
So what makes them? Are they ready to compete? Let me just ask that. Are they ready to compete yet?
Maybe in that sorry division, but no, I don't. No, not overall. No.
In the NFC South, what are your thoughts on the overall draft class of the NFC South?
I think the Falcons probably had the best class. The Saints maybe, but I think probably the Falcons had the best class. But I mean, again, they have a mess that they developed from last year by signing Cousins and then drafting a quarterback.
What about
we still laugh at that to this day?
That makes no sense to me.
None. You sign Kirk Cousins, you guarantee his full contract. Listen again. You guarantee his full contract. And then you go and select Michael Penix in the draft.
And now they either not trade him or can't trade him. I don't know which is which.
Would it ever
get traded this weekend or last week? No.
Would it ever be a day where we can just march the draft and just let everything play out?
No.
Because when the Rams did their draft last year, everybody's like, they did all right. But guess what? Guess what defense was like the most talked about outside of Philly? Full of young draft picks.
That's not ever going to happen because the NFL draft is going to be nitpicked to the very end.
And that's the unfortunate thing is, when I do say it's unfortunate, it's because nowadays everybody is so analytical about whatever the hell's going to happen with their pick, let alone anyone else on the team. It's kind of ruined the thought of, hey, this guy's going here for this pick. Good for him.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Spivey, what are your thoughts on Tacharoa McMillan? You know, being
that seemed to be a little bit of surprise to the guys. They all thought that who was the receiver? Everybody thought he was going. They were going to draft. It was
Hunter.
Who's the guy that everybody thought they were going to draft?
I know this. Tampa Bay got a steal.
Yeah, and Emeka
Buka.
Who's the receiver there that got drafted after he was?
Well, Emeka was.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Panthers. He went like a couple picks after.
Well, Matthew Golden. You talking about Matthew Golden?
That's it. Everybody thought the Panthers was going to draft him. That's it. Joseph, one the so-called experts thought that was a bit of a reach for the Panthers, so that wouldn't surprise me. They seem to have no clue. I'm sure that was a David Tepper move too.
I want to talk about the draft itself, the overhype, the production, and all that stuff. And of course, they had it in a historic place in Lambeau Field, in Green Bay. But the days where they had it in New York and it was quiet, except the whole Warren Sapp thing, which I think started the uproar. But then again, it's the Jets. Why are we not surprised? But it's gone crazy.
That's going to continue. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people at these things.
Yeah.
I think they said 600,000 through the 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
600,000 people in the 3 days.
Not one bit.
Look, all I'm saying is
everything NFL related is huge. Everything.
The first round should not take the entire playoff slate of the NBA.
Yes, it should.
Actually, that was pretty.
I mean,
this past Friday's first round was quick by their standards.
The Thursday,
very much so, because
the Thursday night went pretty quick by their standards.
The first round went quick because they lowered the time from 15 minutes per pick.
Well, not only that, I mean, everybody seemed to have a clue for the most part.
Yeah, that too.
For once, because
as it continued to go on, there were more commercials and more things to trot out, more awards to trot out, which I'm like, couldn't y'all done this like on the Hall of Fame game or the Pro Bowl? Like, y'all have to do this now?
No.
We all know it's a cash cow.
It is.
The NFL prints money.
Still, they can do the first round in about 2.5, 3 hours, and then be done with it.
That first round was way faster than it usually goes.
Because
they usually take 5 hours and usually in the first round.
Well, it went about 3.5. That's not bad.
I was going to say it usually takes 4 because we tried doing this 2 years ago, and
you was damn near asleep.
I was knocked out. I was knocked out on my feet to the point where my wife had to come in and drag me to bed. I was knocked out.
I mean, what do people have better to do if they're going to watch it? Why not watch the whole thing on Friday night or excuse me, Thursday night? So I mean, what else do you have to do?
It's trying to take that long.
Are you picking these guys? I mean, are you gonna have a pick like immediately? That's just crazy talk.
I'm just saying though, you have all this draft board, you make your draft board, you got all this going on.
Oh,
of course you
much
taking
harder
calls.
than you think it is. It is much harder than you think it is.
All I'm saying is it shouldn't take almost 5 hours.
Especially as you get to the middle and latter part of the first round, it's much harder than you think it is.
It is because the most hype picks are gone.
Well, this year was
not even this year was like that though.
There were no quarterbacks.
Exactly.
It wasn't like that this year. Like it seemed like most people were like picking around what they wanted, and then if it was still there, they go for it.
Let's have a
point. Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Victor.
Don't get me started.
You crawled inside my head. Jay, what the heck were the Pittsburgh Steelers doing?
And they keep waiting. Listen, I think he's a great quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. But how long does it take to make a decision?
Sorry for cussing, but does Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting on Aaron Rodgers?
That's what I just said. What is he waiting on? It's been almost 4 months. What's he waiting on?
I was doing that to Snowman. You say Aaron Rodgers.
This Aaron Rodgers saga is worse than LeBron James's decision.
The Jets finished in early January. How long does it take?
How long does it take? As long as Aaron Rodgers wants it to take.
And
we're talking
that's
about
the damn problem.
We're talking about Aaron Rodgers here.
That's the damn problem. Is Rodgers is the one dictating this bullshit?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
He basically has their feet hanging over the fire. He knows that.
Here's the thing: Aaron Rodgers ain't dictating it. Pittsburgh is just sitting there.
Yep.
Like, dude, he's telling you he doesn't have a time limit. Y'all can do whatever y'all want to do. Pittsburgh's like, nah, we'll wait.
The other thing is, after the draft concluded on Saturday, the first piece of news that came out, we may have a decision soon on Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't said a word about Aaron Rodgers for 72 hours.
Right.
Who could possibly care now?
Who gives 2/5 of a half of a damn?
Why didn't Cleveland sign him? They only have 5 quarterbacks. All right, go ahead and sign him too.
So you're telling me that day one decision could come between Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph? Who could care about this season? I maintain it. I do not think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make it to the playoffs this year.
I don't either.
I ain't saying that because Mike told me he found ways. I don't know how he does it.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious he's going to go to Pittsburgh. But how long?
You said that last year. You remember that?
I've said that the last 4 years.
And you're on 4.
I'm on. I'll probably be 0-5. So the hell with it.
One of their biggest problems is Pickens.
Oh God,
Pickens has so much talent, and he just
crash out Pickens.
He's an idiot.
He is an idiot.
He's a head case. He's an idiot. He's a troublemaker. If they could harness some of that ability, oh my goodness,
crash out because he has the talent.
Crash out.
We've seen him have talent. I've seen him make catches that Victor I don't think should be humanly possible.
Victor just said one of the greatest nicknames I've ever heard.
I've seen
crash out Pickens.
I've seen Pickens make some of the most outrageous catches that should not be humanly possible, but he can. He can do it. But he always messes up because he want to crash out.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's apropos for Georgia players since they all get called for speeding.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Oof, okay,
true.
Or more accurately, racing.
Racing.
Yeah, because they can't get down to the speedway, so they're stupid enough to do it in the hills. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this seems like it's a Georgia issue.
Well, it's not their fault they think they can be Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Well,
I can't comment on it because I got beaten by a Georgia Bulldog wearing a Philadelphia Eagles jersey. So I can't say nothing about Georgia right now.
It's either him or Justin Tucker or Deshaun Watson.
Oh God.
Deshaun Watson is done in Cleveland.
Let's go to Cleveland,
and
before we go to the bottom of the hour.
The Cleveland soap opera.
Yes, it should be called the Cleveland Browns. They should be called the Cleveland. You know what?
I got to tell this story real quick.
I was thinking of this question on the way in today. What would be an appropriate television theme song for a team? And the instant I thought of that question and I began to voice it aloud, my wife comes out and says Days of Our Lives. Because she knew I was talking about the Cleveland Browns.
That's not bad. That's not bad. The sands through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
Hey,
absolutely.
Are we putting the Cleveland Browns on Hard Knocks this year?
I got one bit.
Let me answer Playmaker's question, and I say this with a 2-foot smile on my face. Who gives 2/5 of a half of a damn if the Cleveland Browns are on Hard Knocks?
Everybody will. You know why? Everybody want to know that quarterback room. Everybody want to get an inside look at that quarterback room.
He's right.
I do not.
You heard what Jay said. The NFL is about money.
I got
no bigger money if you don't put Cleveland Browns on the Hard Knocks this year.
Hold on. I got to tell this story real quick because this is going to remain the funniest thing I've ever seen in the draft. We were watching the draft. The Browns had the second pick. They traded down to the 5th. This is how Jacksonville got Travis Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the 5th pick. Was it Mason Graham? I think it was.
Mason Graham out of Michigan.
Bay sat there. Now, mind you, my feed is ahead of everybody's that we were watching. Mine was ahead of Brian's and Bay's. Yeah. Bay sat there and said, "Don't lie to me. Don't get beat up."
He said, Don't get beat up.
When I said, "No, I'm not lying,"
and then it popped through, and then it popped through on my feed, and I repeated it.
Right. Bay had to mute himself.
He did.
And he went on at least a good 2.5-minute cuss rant.
On mute?
On mute.
Yes. On mute. I will clip that. I'll have it tomorrow.
You can see him cussing.
I will have that tomorrow.
As far as the theme song for the Browns, it's gotta be whatever the Bozo the Clown theme song was for the show.
I gotta go back to Days of Our Lives.
Give me Benny Hill for that one.
Let me bring Jay. Let's bring Jay back in. Days of Our Lives is the perfect song, as I just knocked over my water for the Cleveland Browns, because they still can't get it right to present day.
Well, there again, it comes down to ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So the question now is, now that Shedeur is there, how do you?
But why do they need him? They don't need him.
They don't.
When and where is he going to play?
I made a crazy prediction.
Hold on. I can do this. Deshaun Watson is done.
Yeah, so Deshaun Watson's done. James Winston's gone.
Nobody on this panel and nobody in Cleveland, matter of fact, nobody in the United States of America believes in Kenny Pickett.
Whether Deshaun Watson's there done or not, they're still going to have to pay him every penny of that contract.
Yep, because they guarantee
there's no out of that because they gave him a full deal. Stupidly.
I'm pretty sure they'll find a way to get out of it.
There's no way they can get out of it.
They can't.
No, it's guaranteed, dude. It's full blown.
Yeah, I know it's guaranteed, but still, they're not finna play him. Plus, he's injured.
That doesn't matter. They got to pay him.
Doesn't matter. He's going to get every penny of that contract because of two simple.
But you still have
you're
to have
hamstrung by that contract already.
There are two words in Deshaun Watson. There are two words in Deshaun Watson's contract that handcuff the Cleveland Browns. Fully guaranteed.
Y'all not hearing me. I'm saying he's not stepping on the field as a Cleveland Brown ever again. It
does not matter. In essence, he's still playing because they can't pay anybody because of his contract.
They can still pay him, but he's not stepping on the field. That's my point.
That does not matter.
Which means it would have to be Shedeur. There'd be
nobody believes in Kenny Pickett.
No.
Everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to say there's no way that Dylan Gabriel is better than Shedeur Sanders.
The only other person, yeah, I could see Flacco starting.
Flacco's going to be the starter.
Will start.
Flacco will probably do 4 games and then get injured.
Probably. And I'm dead over here.
I'm
if you
sorry,
see me,
I
looking
love
off
Flacco, but he's getting too old.
But Snowman, you like throwing questions out here. Right? Let me throw you a question out here to entice you. How many games would it take for the Browns fans to say they want Shedeur Sanders on the field?
2.
1.
Way more than 1.
1.
Way more than 1.
It'll take 1. Shedeur Sanders is the popular pick. Shedeur Sanders is the pick that should have, according to many, gone earlier.
A lot earlier.
He was a 3rd rounder at absolute best.
He was a 3rd rounder at best. I said it for 2 years. That he's a 3rd rounder at best. Shouldn't have fallen to the 5th round, admittedly, but he was a 3rd rounder at best.
So I asked this to you, Mr. Spivey. What do you think was the main cause? We know there were a bunch of causes. What do you think was the main cause for Shedeur's drop?
It had nothing to do with him other than the fact that apparently he gave a lot of bad interviews. Now that probably played an impact. But it sounds like he sounded like he was entitled, and I get that too.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest part is they don't want to deal with the Deion drama.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Which took a lot of teams off the board too.
That's why I don't get what these people that don't know what they're talking about and say, "Oh, it's such a disgrace where he got picked and how he was treated and this and that." Well, that's what happens when your dad runs the show.
There's a particular 4-letter word that was also used about that, especially when New York picked Dart over Sanders.
It's a 6-letter word, actually.
Well, apparently, from what I heard, at least on, I guess it was Sunday, there were a lot of teams that didn't even have him on their draft boards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain.
They did not.
Boomer Esiason said that the owners told their GM to take him off the board.
But it was just, there's a lot of people who think it was collusion among the owners and GMs. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that at all.
I heard many
honestly, I don't either.
I don't either.
I broke down. I spent half of an episode breaking down Shedeur Sanders' game fundamentally. From his game, I broke down his game on the field, and then you mix in the Deion factor.
Yeah,
and I said he was a 3rd rounder at best, and a lot of supporters of Deion came after me, saying you can't say that about Shedeur. I just did.
Yeah,
I've heard people talk about this quote unquote collusion against Shedeur, and they named one of the person. They named this one of the person alongside. They said this gives off the same vibes as one Colin Kaepernick.
No, get the hell out of here!
This is totally different.
And that's what I said. Like, that's totally different. That's a completely different situation.
And they were saying it to us when we did the draft Thursday night.
Listen, if people thought Shedeur was good enough to play, they would have drafted him in the first round.
Right.
They would have listened.
But they don't want to deal with the Deion drama.
If they thought Shedeur was good enough to play, Cleveland would not have traded back into the 5th pick.
Right.
Period.
And to give you an example, ladies and gentlemen, who was the number 1 pick last year?
Good point. Caleb
Williams.
Caleb Williams
worth of fellas through the draft process.
You can't act entitled. You got to go through the whole process. You can't say, "Well, my dad's one of the greatest players ever."
That's the difference.
And that's
Caleb
something I
Williams
absolutely
the entire process.
And I would absolutely fault Deion on that because that's your son. If anything, you need to instill that humility because the thing is, you are still interviewing for a job. Yes, your talent gives you confidence of like what people will deal with. But if you come in there with an attitude, if you come in there egotistical, like you all love it, trust me, they're not. Even if you do have a good amount of talent, they're gonna say we don't want to deal with this headache.
The only person to have any issue whatsoever with how he was handled was Jeff Ulbricht's son. That was completely and utterly disgraceful how that was handled.
Yeah. Oh, with the prank call?
Yeah, you just can't do that.
No,
he prank call other players too. He prank call other players too.
Jeff Ulbricht's son should be fired.
He should have clowned. He should have got clowned or disgraced. It's like,
listen, I know Jeff technically Ulbricht had nothing to do with this, right? But he needs to come out and speak.
Yeah, and say like, look, my son did something incredibly insensitive and wrong. Because in the end, you are still messing with these players' lives. Remember, their lives and their prospective livelihoods comes from whether or not they're going to get drafted. So when you call someone saying, "Yeah, we want to draft you," it's like, "Yeah, we're thinking it's going to take a little bit long," and you're doing that just to make fun of them. What was the point of that? What was the reason?
There was no point whatsoever.
None.
How many kids have anybody's phone numbers other than him? You just happen to get somebody's phone out of his number in it.
I would have made him do a public apology.
My question is, how did he get those numbers in the first place?
The laptop.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
He got hold of a laptop.
He got a hold of his dad's laptop.
I would have made him stand up in front of a press conference and do a public apology.
Actually, you can do that, but that doesn't do anything.
You know what I would have done? If I were Jeff Ulbricht's son's dad, if I were Jeff Ulbricht, you know what I would have done?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have stood him up in front of the podium.
That's what he should do, but he won't do that. He's not going to do that.
I know, but here's what I would have done. Give me this button here. I would have stood my son up in front of the podium and told him 2 words. You're fired. Now get the hell out and stay. I told him, get the hell out and stay.
Fired from what, though? That's the thing. Fired from what?
Right, because I don't think he has a job in that. I don't think
fired from what? Where'd you go fire him from? He doesn't work for the Atlanta Falcons.
I still would have told him that.
The very least he could do is have him call Shedeur and apologize.
Yeah,
he won't do that.
Don't do this crap about being on Twitter or Instagram. Don't do that. That's not apologizing.
You call the person you pranked.
That's not apologizing.
And you make an apology.
Don't send an email. Don't send a text. That is not apologizing.
Voice to voice. Voice to voice. How that should be handled.
I would say face to face.
Yeah,
that would have been better. That's better. That's better. Thank you, Victor. That's better.
But I doubt that'll happen.
No, that won't happen. I would have done that face to face.
Every player, including Shedeur Sanders, for how they handled that.
Yeah, because Lord of mercy, someone would have been throwing furniture if it really came down to it. But it's like again, this thing also kind of gets me with this whole pranking situation. Like, people can be absolute asshats, absolute bellends. But as long as you put "it's a prank," it's like it's supposed to excuse everything.
It's supposed to excuse you from that, and that's not the. And
it's not excuse you from consequences for your actions. If you was going to get clowned, you should get clowned, whether or not it was a prank or not.
In 4 words, it's happened to me, and Victor, you know the situation.
Oh yeah.
It happened to me very recently, very, very recently.
Well, whatever happened to you and anybody else this has happened to is disgraceful and should never be done.
True.
Should never be done in the first place. We're up against the break. Jay Spivey joins us. He's joining us on a Tuesday because Monday got flipped upside down. Jay, thanks for being patient. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you next Monday. That's a promise.
All righty.
Thank you, Jay.